Mr. Wertheim, what war and branch of service did you serve in?
I served in the United States Army for 20 years and 6 months and retired in December 2010. I was in Iraq from August of 2006 to August of 2007.
What was your rank?
I was a major in the United States Army.
Where did you serve?
I served in Iraq. I was based out of Balad. I was with the 411th Engineer Brigade, which was a theater army brigade, and we worked out of Balad, which was an air base in sort of the middle of Iraq, between Baghdad and Tikrit. We also operated throughout the entire country. We had units anywhere there was an engineer. We had units that we were supporting.
So what did you feel when you finally arrived over there?
Well, like I said, it was when I first got there. It was nerve-wracking. It was a little. Most units they show up together. I went up with 3 or 4 other people initially, so I didn't really know anybody or anything. But we had a job to do. We were happy to get the job going because they talk about our countdown. When you step into Kuwait, you swipe your ID card like you're going through a subway turnstile, and that actually logs you into the theater. And Kuwait encompasses that theater. So my 365 days of being in Iraq started the day that I swiped my ID card. So once we got up to Iraq, then we were waiting to take over the mission. We wanted to learn, let the unit we were replacing leave, and get on because that starts our countdown to go home. And that's actually, it's a very dangerous time, the first 30 days and the last 30 days when a unit goes into a war zone, because the first 30 days you don't know what you're doing and you're nervous and you're learning no matter who you are. You're usually in a new job. Even if you've been there before, you're doing a new job. The last 30 days people are anxious to go home, and they lose focus of what they're doing. So the first 30, the last 30 are usually the most dangerous for people. And but you want to get on with the mission, and we had a big job to do. Initially we got there, our thought was we were going to be closing bases. We had trained for closing bases and turning things over to the Iraqi government. A few days after we got there, they announced a new strategy called the Surge. And now we weren't closing bases. We were actually going to be making more bases, and we were going to be fighting even more. I was probably in Iraq, aside from the initial invasion, some of the hardest fighting and the most deadly fighting during our time period for being there.
So how long were you actually in Iraq before you saw combat?
Well, it depends on what you want to call combat. I actually, like I said, the first morning we were there, we were mortared. That consisted of a siren, a boom, and went back to eating breakfast. Though about 2 weeks into me being there, I went out on my first combat patrol, my counter IED, with one of our subordinate units, the 110th Engineer Battalion, and we went out and we patrolled for about 12 hours in 100-plus heat, and it was absolutely, there was nothing. And we patrolled the road, didn't find any of the IEDs, the improvised explosive devices. Nobody bothered us. We patrolled, and it was long, it was boring, it was hot. And I figured, okay, this is not so bad. This is okay. And I was very nervous. But as I was a major. It's a senior officer. It's a field grade officer. So I really just sat there and I kept my mouth shut and just watched what they did, and was trying to learn their mission, because they were leaving. The subordinate unit that was there, they were getting ready to leave in a month, and another unit was going to come in. About a week later, I went out on my second patrol, and again, it was about 8-9 hours we were patrolling, and all of a sudden the sky lit up. Our vehicle was pushed back about 10 feet. We're talking a vehicle that's heavier than a tractor trailer, and we had gone over a improvised explosive device. And I remember the guy next to me started screaming, and first thing you think of is you start checking and making sure everything's okay. And I'm feeling my legs, my arms. I'm saying, okay, head's ringing, but everything else is working. I'm good. And I'm looking over and I'm like, why is he screaming? And I go, and I'm trying to figure out, is he okay? So I'm checking this guy. And again, I was an observer on their patrol. So I didn't really know these people. It's one of our units, but they didn't know me. And it turns out that's what he always did, and it was his 17th or 18th time of getting blown up from an IED. And thankfully, the vehicle we were in absorbed the shock of the initial bomb blast, and everybody was okay. We were shook up. I think one of the oil lines in the vehicle had been blown out, but aside from that, we were fine. Again, scared the hell out of me. I was very happy to get back to that base that night, but most missions are long and boring, except for about 30 to 40 seconds of sheer terror. And I learned right then and there. I said, I got to make sure that the unit coming in understands this, because it's going to be their job to go out and find these bombs. These guys had been doing it a year. They were in their 30 days, where it's the most dangerous. And they're a great unit. They did a lot of good things there, but they got to pay attention. And as the person for the brigade who was responsible for making sure these missions were executed and the bombs were cleared off the roads for other people, it's a lot of attention to detail for what I was doing and for what my team was doing. So again, first experience of combat, the bomb went off, shook me up, probably had a concussion from it, but went back the next day and we did it again, because that's what we were supposed to do.